Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing the only reason an ex comes back. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing the only reason an ex comes back. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you need to know the reason which will bring your ex back to you. In today's podcast, I'll be explaining this reason, whilst first giving two honourable mentions. So let's get straight into this, and honourable mention number one is they feel the silence. Now, it's absolutely vital that your ex, the dumper, feels the silence, but when I try and explain this to dumpees, sometimes I'm asked the question, well, when I tried to attract my ex initially, I had to chase them. They like to be chased, and therefore if I want to reconnect with my ex, surely I need to be doing that again. Surely I need to be begging, pleading, reasoning, chasing them, because that is how I attracted them originally. Well, this is why it's very important to distinguish the differences between attracting someone new and attracting an ex. When we are trying to re-attract an ex, this is a completely different position to when you first attracted them, because when you first attracted your now ex-dumper, they were a brand new person in your life. So let's consider the differences here. If you want to attract somebody new, you need to get into their orbit. You need to get into their mindset. If you were to consider dating somebody new right now, maybe you've joined a new class group or club, maybe there's somebody that you've passively started to like from afar, and you're thinking, I'd really like to get to know them better. I'd really like to possibly go out on a date with them. Well, the first thing you need to do is to get into their mindset. They don't know who you are really. If they are at the same class group or club, and maybe they somewhat know you, but they don't know you properly. They might not have even had a conversation with you yet. So you need to start conversation. You need to showcase yourself as an attractive individual. Now let's compare this to re-attracting your ex. When we're trying to attract an ex, they already know you. You are already in their orbit. You are already in their mindset. They will never forget you. Dumpees are often scared about their ex-dumper forgetting them, but they never will. You will always be in your ex's mindset. You will always be part of their life story, just as they will always be part of yours. So we can see the differences here. If you're trying to attract somebody new, you need them to be thinking about you, and that happens by conversation, moving into their orbit, them noticing you. When we're trying to re-attract an ex, they already know you. They already understand you. They are not going to forget you. So instead, you need to be doing the opposite. You need to be creating space. Or as I like to say in point number one, you need to make them feel the silence. This is really represented best in the push-pull phenomenon. When we're trying to attract somebody new, there also has to be push-pull, but initially you need to be presenting yourself into their world. That could be deemed potentially as the push. You're moving into their orbit, you're starting a conversation, you're showcasing yourself as a positive, attractive individual. But then there would have to be some pullback as well. Now with your ex-dumper, this is all about the pullback, because you've already been doing the pushing throughout your whole relationship. So when somebody asks me, well, what do I do to attract my ex back? Because when we first got together, they really liked me to chase them. They really wanted me to start conversation. They really wanted to be somebody who felt that I was attracted to. So maybe I should be doing that again. Maybe I need to showcase them how I was before by chasing them, by contacting them, by begging, by pleading, by telling them my feelings, all of these things. Well, like I've just been explaining, it's different now. Your ex-dumper is not the same person that you first met. They are not somebody new into your life. Attracting somebody new is different to attracting your ex. And that is why you need to make sure they feel the silence. If you try to make somebody new feel the silence, they're not going to be attracted to you because they don't know who you are. They don't know what you bring to the table. They haven't had a conversation with you. They haven't noticed you. So that's completely different to when you're trying to re-attract an ex. So I hope that helps you understand with this honourable mention. Your ex-dumper needs to feel the silence. You've done the pushing. Now you need to pull back. You need to show them something different. If you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you've always had. And it's very important to recognise the differences between attracting somebody new and re-attracting your ex. So now let's get into honourable mention number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about the only reason an ex comes back. And honourable mention number 2 is the dumpee is reimagined. So this represents you as a dumpee reimagining yourself. You need to be growing your self-worth. You need to be growing your personal brand. You need to be becoming a version 2.0 of yourself. And this is something which will help you re-attract an ex. When we're thinking about reasons that an ex comes back, this isn't the ultimate only reason an ex comes back, but it is a huge and important honourable mention. When you were dumped, your ex-dumper decided that you two were no longer working as a team in a way that they wanted to move forward in a romantic relationship with you. Now, in the past, you worked very well together. That is why you were together the months or years that you were. But at the time of a breakup, your ex-dumper had decided, unfortunately, they no longer wanted to be with you within a romantic relationship. And this is why the dumpee has to be reimagined. Now, this isn't about changing completely. This isn't about saying every single thing about you dumpees was awful, was terrible, was not good enough. But what I am here to say is that unfortunately, there has to be improvement. We should all be improving every single day anyway. I strive to, and everybody else should as well. Now, if you're a dumpee and you want to get your ex back, this is even more paramount because you've got to understand the person that you were that was dumped was not a good connection. That might be hard to hear, but it's the truth. If you are the same person that your ex dumped, they are not going to want to come back. I mean, think about it logically. Why would they come back to somebody that they've dumped? You've got to grow, you've got to improve. Now, like I said, this isn't about you changing completely. This isn't about you becoming a completely different person to anybody would know. Your family and your friends should still recognise the core you, and so should your ex. Now, of course, they fell in love with you, and of course, they still likely have some love towards you. So it's not about throwing everything away about you. It's just about growing and improving. And that is one of the things I can help you with via my audio coaching service. If you want to speak one-on-one with me about your unique, specific situation, if you want to increase the chance of getting your ex back, if you want support going through breakup recovery, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where you can speak one-on-one. Go to my website, www.dateme.tips, for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. So when we look at other ways of trying to reimagine ourselves as a dumpee, an example of this would be you deciding to add more strings to your bow. So perhaps you're somebody who is a good sports person. You're good at sport, but what you're not particularly good at is musical instruments. Maybe you're somebody who loves music, but you can't play music. You're a sports person. You're very good at being active, but you listen to music rather than playing it. Well, here's a suggestion. Why don't you start to learn how to play a new musical instrument? Whether or not you can play one already, or whether you can't play anything at all, why don't you start to learn? Now, the one thing you have as a dumpee is time. You have time because you previously would be spending that time with your ex-dumper, and unfortunately now you're not. You're single. So you have opportunity to learn. Why don't you book some classes about how to start learning to play a certain musical instrument? And then, once you've played and started to learn, post this on social media. Now, maybe your ex will see this. Maybe a friend of a friend will tell your ex. Maybe you're not even certain how they would see, but perhaps they somehow will. Ex-dumpers often have an almost uncanny ability of finding things out about their dumpees. So if you were to post something online, I think there's a good chance that your ex-dumper would somehow find out about it. But it's not just about them, it's about you and growing as a person. Maybe somebody who you didn't even realise was following you on social media sees you posting something about you learning how to play the guitar or the piano or whatever it may be, dumpee, and they think that's so cool that they leave a comment, which you have not even seen before. You didn't even realise, but they followed you. They're a friend of a friend of a friend. You wasn't really aware of all of this. And now you're getting some positive interaction from somebody new. This could be helpful and influential in regrowing attraction in your ex's mind, because you would showcase yourself as a dateable individual with somebody who's getting a lot of interest from others. But on top of that, you never know, this might be the next love of your life. You know, the person writing a comment for you to read, you posting you're learning a musical instrument, they could be the next love of your life. And ultimately, all that matters is happiness. Whether you get your ex back, whether you find somebody even better, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, as long as you are happy and fulfilled. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. And this is the only reason an ex comes back. And this is why if you're a dumpee and you want to reconnect with your dumper, you want to try and get your ex back in the future, this is ultimately the only thing you should be focusing on, because it is the only reason an ex comes back. And point number 3, the only reason an ex comes back is romantic emotional attraction. Nothing else matters. Nothing else counts. Romantic emotional attraction is why somebody will want to get into a relationship with you. Whether they're somebody new or whether they're your ex, that is all that matters. The reason you got together in the first place is due to romantic emotional attraction. The reason why you were dumped is because the level of romantic emotional attraction fell to a necessary low point. And the only reason your ex will come back is if this attraction level raises once more to the necessary high point. This is why we sometimes see people together who from the outside you think, well, why are they together? Well, surely that doesn't work. You know, from the outside it might look bizarre, but the reason why it does work is because they're both feeling a high level of romantic emotional attraction. It beats everything. You know, every other element at play is dwarfed by this. You could be living 10,000 miles away, and to everybody else it seems crazy, but you're still together because of the high level of romantic emotional attraction. Maybe your ex cheated on you 5 times and every single person is telling you, why do you want to get back together with this person? This makes no sense. But if you feel enough romantic emotional attraction, it beats everything. It beats common sense. It beats thought. It beats any single other principle. This is what dictates romantic and lustful relationships. It's why people have affairs when they risk absolutely everything. You might see 2 people, they look completely happy, they're living wonderful lives, and yet one of them cheats on their partner with somebody who has very limited prospects, maybe no ambition, no money, no ability to really give them any kind of lifestyle like their partner does, but they will still cheat because the level of romantic emotional attraction beats common sense. It beats anything. It's more powerful than what you understand. And that is because romantic emotional attraction is connected to lots of things, including polarity, which is something I speak about via my audio coaching service. And maybe you and your ex, you felt everything was going well, but they've left you, unfortunately, because the polarity was not right. And this is something you really need to align. You really need to be focusing on to regrow that attraction in their mind. You might not understand why they're dating somebody new instead of yourself, but right now, you know, they're feeling something. They're feeling something which is different to what they felt with you at the time. If this is soon after your breakup, it's likely a rebound. It's probably going to burn out. But there's still something there that perhaps you could learn from. And this is why romantic emotional attraction doesn't always make sense. It is not something like mathematics. It's not an exact science. It is more a free-flowing art form, in my opinion. That is what love is. Love is not something which can be completely written down as a logical formula. It doesn't fit into a box. It's something that you have to look outside of a box to fully understand. And if you want to try to get your ex back, if you want to reconnect with somebody, if you want them to want to come back into your life, your only task is to regrow that level of romantic emotional attraction in their mind. Nothing else matters. Like I said, they could be 10,000 miles away. You could have cheated on them 5 times. It might be a situation that makes no sense to anybody else. But If you crave that attraction in their mind, they will want to be with you, and vice versa. One of the reasons why you're feeling somewhat desperate now is because there is nothing more attractive than rejection. And at the time of a breakup, when they ended the relationship, when they dumped you, they rejected you in your mindset. Your subconscious mind sees that as rejection. Therefore, it sees your ex as a more attractive prospect. If they dumped me, then they must be better than me, is the basic principle if I was to break it down in its most simplistic form. So you can see from your own thought process, you're obsessing over your ex due to romantic emotional attraction being grown in your mind towards them, due to them treating you in a way where you feel rejected. It links in a way to point number one, when I was saying you need to make sure they feel the silence, because they're certainly making you feel the silence right now, and you can see how that has affected you. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.